G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Dan McKinley from Dog and Bone Consulting. You're based in beautiful Anglesey, Victoria, so southeast of Melbourne, just past Geelong, near Ocean Grove, the world famous Bells Beach. Have I got that right?
I have just moved down here, Troy, but
Yeah.
our office is based in Northcote in Melbourne.
Yeah, I love Northcote, great area of Melbourne. Yeah.
The almond lattes aren't quite as good down in Northcote, but down in Anglesey. But the ocean, fresh air and oceans are definitely a good counterbalance.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of Australia down that way, just past. But it's past Bells Beach, isn't it? Because it's Ocean Grove, then Bells.
Yeah, it's the first town on the Great Ocean Road, I would say. So.
Yes, that's it. Great Ocean Road. Was it now 11 and a half apostles still standing in the?
I'm not sure how many apostles there are, but there's certainly a lot less than there is on the sign. That's for sure.
Crumbling away, falling into the ocean. So let's start with how we know each other. So Simon from the agency called Harvey, based in Melbourne, put us in touch. Thought you might be a great guest to come on. We had Simon on the cast a few months ago. So thanks Simon for putting us in touch.
Yeah, Simon and Harvey and his team of people have been really great. They have sort of led our communications and marketing overhaul, and just launched our new website, which has gone live about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it looks terrific.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, they've done a really good job. He and his team have pulled that together, which has been really good. But we've also sort of had Simon join our team as a bit of a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer,
Yep.
sort of doing a day a week with the guys in our team to actually kind of have a bit of a live-in experience with us and bring that level of expertise to our existing comms and marketing, which has been invaluable. So yeah, it's been a really good partnership so far. Both B-Corp, so pretty proud of that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And on that, what is your B-Corp score? I think it's on your website, 92.8 at the moment.
92.8 is our current score. It's our second. We were one of the, probably not one of the first, but one of the early-ish adopters of it. So we've been certified twice, and our third certification will come up sometime late next year. So
yeah, great. No, it is growing in Australia. It's quite big in America right now. So yeah, good to see you're on the B Corp path. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does, and how it makes money.
All right, well, straight to the real stuff. I like it.
That's it.
So, Dog and Bone has changed over the years a little bit, but our main two things that we do nowadays are help organisations, and we almost exclusively work for non-profit and government agencies in Australia. That's our kind of passion and expertise. So we help them with their IT strategic planning. So we essentially help them work out how can they ensure technology works for them, how can we ensure technology is supporting their mission and their business objectives, which certainly I think COVID just taught us that's pretty much essential to the successful running of most organisations. The other part of what we've done, which is probably one of the things we started the business with, is our procurement services, and essentially we help organisations negotiate and specify technology solutions. So maybe a fleet of mobile phones, or a data network, or a unified communication system, or an information management overhaul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So we basically are fully independent, and we go and help them to think about it and be really clear on what their requirements are, and then put out an RFP and go to the market and do the analytics in that space to make sure that they're getting what they need and getting good outcome for it.
So you guide them and help them choose the right technology they need, might be CRM or whatever systems. You help them select the right systems for their specific needs, and then you help them implement it?
Yeah, we've got a project capability, although our specialty is really around helping an organization from the strategy kind of things. We've got a service called CIO as a service around putting that kind of real senior expertise into organizations to make sure that because that's a lot of people, especially with COVID and so forth, have been really quite reactionary. So we're like, right, we need to be, what's our actual challenge? Which is, something that's pretty important to business as a general rule. But yeah, what's our actual problem? How can we solve it? And the problem that is in the industry is that most of the people with the expertise to answer those questions work for vendors. Not all, but most of them do. So therefore, you go and ask Telstra for a great IT strategy. They've got the technical capability to do it, but they're sure as hell not going to suggest that you should go to Optus. So that's kind of our job there. And then once we've been clear on what we need to do, we use our procurement capability to help them negotiate and buy that ensuring they get the best technical and commercial outcomes. And then we've got some project capability to ensure that they actually get implemented. And then things like CIO as a service is designed to make sure that not only is it implemented, it's managed ongoing to make sure that they get the long-term outcomes. So, but we are not a service delivery company. We're not a managed services company. We're not going to fix your printer. We're not going to fix your laptops. We're not going to do that day-to-day stuff, but we would help specify the solution and would help select a managed service provider, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And how did you start out?
The Dog and Bone, I should probably know how to say my own company name, shouldn't I? Dog and Bone has been going since I was 20 years old. So it's gosh, how old am I now? So it's about 18 years old as a business. It actually started out, I did some work out of school working for one of the big telcos, and then I went traveling, and I was working for a friend of mine doing Indigenous sort of landscaping.
Yep.
And he had quite a big team of staff, and I said, give us a couple of days off and I'll do some mathematics and analysis on your expenditure on your telecommunications. And so I came back and I cut his bills in half, and he said, you should do this for other people. And I kind of parked that little idea away, and ultimately, I had a few connections in the non-profit sector and a few other businesses, and I sort of just helped them out kind of on an ad hoc basis. And I was pretty shocked at the amount of kind of money that we could save people.
Yeah.
And my family have always worked in the non-profit sector. My family have run a social enterprise. They still do run a social enterprise. So I kind of had the passion for that, and I thought, oh my God, there's this capital sitting here that's a bit of a lost opportunity. So that's where we started. And Dog and Bone means telephone in Cockney rhyme, if anyone's wondering.
It does.
So we started out with a kind of telco procurement specific focus, and then I guess the rest of the business has been sort of built around that.
Yeah. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over those 18 years?
Yeah. So I was trying to work this out, and I think we've done probably about 25%, maybe 30% average annual growth over that year, over that period.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's great.
However, I started out borrowing $3,100 off my parents, so it's not.
Yeah.
We didn't turn over $5 million in our first year. I can tell you that for sure.
No.
So, but yeah, we've rarely gone backwards. We've had a few years where we've haven't grown a great deal, and we've had some years where we've grown heaps. So
yeah, right.
But that would be about an average.
Yep, great. And what about number of team members, full-time equivalents? Is yourself that started, and what are you up to now?
Yeah, so we've got about 20 staff.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, we largely use our own staff. We have a couple of contractors and so forth when we need specific expertise, but we've had a philosophy of wanting to, engage our own staff and look after them as I guess from a practical point of view and an ethical point of view as well. That's worked for us. Not that that's universally the right thing to do as a business though. But that's how we've done it.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Probably about a month ago when I moved to Anglesey.
Out surfing every day or walking the beach.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, I think, we went, I think after, surviving COVID basically. And it's allowed me to reinvent my business, and probably reinvent myself and my role in the organisation. And that's something I have been wanting to do for a long time. So yeah, I would say, I don't know. Do you, as a business owner, do you ever say you're done if you've succeeded? I'm not sure. I would say that personally. But yeah, I'd say recently I feel is certainly the most positive and upbeat I've been feeling around the success of it.
And what does success look like to you?
It's a good question. I've never wanted to run a huge company. It's not that just getting huge, just getting bigger headcounts and bigger revenue and bigger profits and so forth has never been my end goal. I've wanted to do a few things. I've wanted to have a good impact on the world. That's been something that's been really important to me. So having a good impact in how we run our business and the impact that the business has is really important to me. Treating my staff well and looking after the people that we work and having a great team, having a no, can I say it? No dickheads.
Yes,
it's one of the great joys. It's one of the great joys for me of running my own business is that every single person that works at our organisation are dead set legends. I love working with them. The team is just, we're a little family. Everyone really gets along. We look after each other. That's part of what success looks like to me, to be honest. It's there's no point you making lots of money and your staff being miserable. That's, to me, a pretty boring way to live your life. Success also means to me, I guess, freedom around how I spend my time specifically, which is financially backed. Do you know what I mean? There's a being financially successful is really enabling of that. So yeah, I'm about to spend some of my time. I've sort of had about 6 weeks off moving down here and getting set up, which is, unheard of to be able to do that. But which is really enabled by my new management team that are just absolutely fantastic, and the sort of functionality and success of the business. But yeah, I'm going to be working on a project installing solar and power in the Solomon Islands, which one of our staff members is from the Solomons. So to be able to actually dedicate my time and financial resources to a project like that is pretty key to my definition of success. That was a long-winded answer, but there you go.
Oh, that's good. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Marketing it. Oh, you've just got to get you've got to find someone. You've got to find the people who actually know how to do it, because marketing is an entire science in its own right.
Totally agree.
And it's been said to me before that you'd be better off having an average product and marketing it really well than having a fantastic product and not marketing it very well. And I would say Dog and Bone has had a fantastic product that's been poorly marketed historically, and now that's changing. And yeah, it's pretty wonderful to see the impact of that. So.
Because the guys at Harvey, they generally only work with businesses that have a, gone vague. I'm sorry. That make.
I would say for benefit organisations. So
yeah, I think Simon
for organisations that are making a difference in the world.
Yeah, making a difference, making an impact. I think that's how Simon described it in the cast. Yeah, which I think is great, wonderful. Yeah,
yeah, and that's fundamentally our position as well. And that's been something that looking at who we are and our branding and so forth, but also the B-Corp journey has really sort of brought us to that point now where we've always had a focus in this. Probably, we would have consistently had over 80% of our business in the non-profit / government, more the non-profit sector. But now we're like, look, that is our focus. We're going to be honest about it. We're going to be upfront about it. If there's corporate organizations that are doing amazing work and have got a real impact focus, then we'd love to work with them. But we're going to be upfront about that not being our, that's not our focus. So, however, we can help them, but it's not what we're trying to do.
And how did you fund your business? It started with the loan, the $3,000.
Yeah, I got a loan from my parents for $3,100, which largely it mostly went on a computer. I remember driving a computer around in my car and thinking the computer's worth more than my car. So. So yeah, that's how we've been and we've really self-funded from then. I had another business as well, which I started sort of in about 3 or 4 years ago, which I also sold. But yeah, that's mostly it's been it's been totally self-funded.
Yeah, great. And if you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
That's a hard question to ask after, 18 years in this. This is what I know and what I'm good at. And when I continue to ask myself the question, how can I have the greatest impact? It's doing what I'm good at. So probably, but yeah, I don't know. There are times where I wish I'd, gone to sort of help people choose the nicest yacht to sail around the world in or something like that. That could be a nice business. But look, working with organizations that do amazing stuff and have an impact in the world, that would be my focus. Exactly how I do that, I'm not sure. But yeah, technology is so fast moving and so impactful for an organization's success that, I think I probably would.
Yeah, good. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Is it boring to talk about COVID? Does everyone else just talked about COVID for your last year?
It oscillates between cash flow, people, and COVID, basically.
Can they be all of them?
I said pick the most stressful. Yeah.
The most stressful. I think that is the most. That's probably, if you want to choose a moment or a thing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Running a small business is pretty stressful. One thing I would really say is that running a small business that's going well is hard work, but pretty rewarding. Running a small business that's going badly is bloody miserable.
Yeah, it is fucking hard.
To get and that whole, you got to motivate yourself and all that. You really do. Like if you're running it, that's it. And it's really, and that's that thing where even your loyal staff and your senior people and all that, there's still an ultimate thing where if they don't own the business, there's still an element of, well, it's your problem whether you pay the wages this month or not.
Yeah.
So, I think that I would say that as a general comment. But yeah, the staff were joking with me the other day. I think the last sort of session we had in the office in March last year, we've got a big outdoor area. We went out the back of the office and I made everyone stand in a circle and about a meter apart from each other. And I said, hey guys, I'd be lying to you if I said I'd been a CEO through a global pandemic before, but basically my mission is to make sure that you guys have all got a job and pay your mortgage this year at the worst case. How we do it, I don't know, but let's roll our sleeves up and smash it.
Yeah. And
we did. I had been looking at kind of a restructuring of our business. We had quite a few staff who'd been with Dog and Bone for a long time who've made a massive contribution, but they were looking to do other things and Dog and Bone was sort of looking to refresh as well. And so that process had started. Mm-hmm. And then COVID was coming and I sat down with a few of those guys and a few of my new guys and said, are we going to do this? Are we just crazy? And we did it. So we restructured the business and got through COVID at the same time. And it's turned out to be, a really successful strategy. But God, I've never worked so many hours in my life, that's for sure.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I guess the area that I've had, I probably would have had the most value is probably in the sales. I know the products and services and have a real passion for what I'm doing, and I think it's still as challenging as this is for a business owner. People want to talk to you. There is an element how you wean them off you is a pretty challenging thing to get right. And often I went through a phase of that everyone that I had to be successful. I had to not be involved with stuff, and I had a really awesome business mentor, and he was like, "They like you, Dan. You know, be involved in it, but just don't run it." So I had to sort of reevaluate where and when I would get involved, and that's been really important.
What have you enjoyed?
That answer your question?
It does. Yeah. And what have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
I think there's an innate responsibility of running we haven't been Facebook, you know what I mean? Like we've been financially viable the whole time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you've had, 6 months revenue in the bank at every stage of your life. So when you have a whole lot of people who work for you that you really care about, and what you do impacts whether they can feed their family and pay their mortgage, that's, I don't know, it's a pretty fundamental challenge and stress of running a business that I take incredibly seriously. But I don't know, it's the most basic answer, but to be honest, making payroll and making sure that you are financially responsible is probably my most simple answer to that question.
Yeah. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
I've always loved business. I don't know. I like the people. I think that's basically my answer. I like working with good people who are energized, capable, professional, whether they are your staff or your clients. But I love the people side of it. That's my most straightforward answer to that.
What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think having a new management team come in with a different perspective on things and a real energy and sort of zest for success, but bringing their own stamp to it, has meant I've had to change my mindset to choosing when I impact things, when I challenge things, when do I say something? Do I not? Do I override someone? To me, I've always had this sort of motto, which I've tried to impart to my managers, that, you should use your kind of executive authority to say, I want you to do it like this because I'm the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bloody infrequently. It's like, if you're having to do that very often, then something's probably wrong. You probably got the wrong people or something's not going well. Every now and again, people want leadership and they want you to go, right, we need to make a call in 30 minutes. Who's going to do it? And sometimes you just need to step up and go, I'm going to do it and I'm going to own it, whether we get it right or wrong. There's a saying that my grandfather had, which I'll massacre, but fundamentally it was, consult widely and act decisively.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've tried to live by.
Yeah, and it's very hard to transition out as you're building out your management team to know when to, step away from a lot of the decision making and guide people. Just give your opinion, but it's their call. It's really tough, But they need that autonomy and they need that to own a corner of the business, and they make the decisions, and they're responsible for those decisions, as I like to say. Well, one of the CEO jobs I had at the distillery down here, new into the game, and people would, we're used to going to the head cheese all the time and asking a shit ton of questions and getting small decisions made. And I would, for a month or two until they all got it, I'd say, I make enough decisions on a day to run a small South Pacific nation. So there's your corner, your call. I'll give you my opinion, but you're making the decision. It's really hard to find that balance and that timing.
It is. There was something that my my mum did sort of organizational training stuff. She's not around anymore, but she was bloody wise woman. And she had sort of had a bit of a process that she took me through years ago. It's like, work out with decision. Does it have a reputational risk? You know, is someone going to get up and talk on the news about what you do as a business?
Yeah.
Right. You probably want to know about that. Does it have a huge economic impact? You know, is it really, you're going to be signing off on a $50,000 server package, or you, you know, or does it have a huge time impact? Sometimes people in business, and this is something certainly when you're selling labor, it's really that time is the hidden killer of so much stuff. Yeah. Well, it wasn't expensive. But you had 4 people working on it for 3 days. It's $20,000. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
It's not, but it didn't spend any money. But you did. So, going through a process like that, and it's like, well, if the answers knows all of those, then knock yourself out. And then as a CEO or a business owner, you've got to also sort of relatively happily wear the consequences of that decision. Whether it's now, obviously, if a staff member keeps making bad ones, you've got to step in. But every now and again, they're going to make decisions that you didn't like or that weren't the right ones. And you know, who doesn't do that? Hey.
Yep, that's right. What's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I don't know. I've never been one of these people that's gone for the, you know, write the 27-page business plan and do SWOT analysis every morning before breakfast thing. Maybe I should have. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask about that. I'm not going to give you my 6 a.m. pre-cereal routine recipe. But I think the habit is you've got to, for me anyway, it's people. And I actually ran a non-people-based business, like an e-commerce business as well. And you know what? It was still about people, really, fundamentally.
Yep.
So you've got to be in the habit of listening and learning, and notice it when your staff member is quiet, you know, or their grandma's died or whatever. Give them a few days off. Help them be mindful of that team and really ask questions and listen and be approachable. Apologize if you stuff something up.
Yeah.
So yeah, be aware of your power dynamics too, especially as you grow bigger.
Yes.
When we were small, we were all pretty good mates, and it was sort of, you could say the wrong thing or do something and kind of didn't matter so much. But when you're starting to get into this 20 sort of stuff, there's lots of people who work for you. They're not actually, you might really like them, but they're not your best friends. No. You're the CEO. If you say, you know, if you talk over the top of them, they'll be quiet.
Yeah.
So you need to be aware of that.
Mark and Mike from Manager Tools, I'm not sure if you've come across that podcast, but they talk about the 3 powers in the workplace, which is role power. I'm your boss. Do as I say, or I'm going to fire you. Technical power. I know more about this topic than you do. So, you know, listen to me. And the most powerful one, though, is relationship power. So building a professional relationship with your direct reports, and that comes with communication, you know, regular communication, feedback, one-on-ones, etc. Spending time with people. That is the most powerful way to influence people in the workplace, as opposed to saying, do this or I shall fire you.
Yeah, well, that goes back to what I was saying before. You don't want to be doing that very often.
No.
One thing that
short term, it might work, but people, especially A players and great people, are going to leave if you're an asshole.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we've done on this, and I think I ripped the idea off Bhutan, which is a country near Tibet.
Yeah.
But they have a thing where they track gross national happiness.
Yes, happiness.
Which is something I've always thought is pretty awesome. And so we kind of bastardized that idea.
Yeah.
And every Monday morning, and still with this team, we do it every Monday morning, and we accept the efficiency dividend of having a 20 people sit down and talk about their weekend cost for the relationship value of it. But we all sit down and rate our weekends and how we're going out of 10. Yeah. And we actually track that, and we've tracked that for years. So we've got this amazing graph with every person is a line of, it's a color on this graph, so it just goes along And you can tell, you know, in COVID, it was all about like the weather because we're all locked up.
Yep.
So you get this, and it's sort of a bit tongue in cheek, but actually over time, it produces really impactful data, but it also allows you to go, geez, they had a 4 this weekend.
Yeah.
I better, you know, mate, I was about to wrap them over the head for not getting that report done. I might just bite my tongue. It actually gives you that visibility. And we kept doing that even through COVID, even online.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just a little trick we developed, but we loved it.
I like it. That is a good idea. Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team? Some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening.
Yeah.
Did you fuck anything up right royally hiring someone?
Yep. Yeah, heaps of times.
We'll have. Let's talk about that so people can learn from it.
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the struggles that we had was going back to funding and all that sort of stuff. Is certainly in the early days, we didn't have the money, and IT is one of those things where a lot of people are paid really, really well. So, as a small kind of startup working in the nonprofit sector, you can't afford to just buy people at the market rates easily. Mm-hmm. So we sort of often had to go for a bit of a diamond in the rough solution. And so, yeah, I think probably one of the main things I got wrong was trying to understand people's motivation. Why are they, you know, if we're not paying them the maximum amount of money they could get, why are they going to work for us?
Yeah.
Sometimes it was that they didn't have the skills. Yeah. Often those people were actually quite successful sometimes. But yeah, didn't, or that they sort of wanted to change, but sort of thought they were doing me a favor by doing those sorts of things, or perhaps were at a different stage in their life and career. Definitely got that wrong a few times. But on the flip side, I've had people who are, you know, in their sort of 60s, if you like, or even beyond, who have also been had real contributions.
Yep.
I think I'm not the most process-driven person. I'm a bit of a dreamer. I now have very process-driven people who work for me who run this. But not having sort of clear systems and processes, not being really clear on what is your job, what am I expecting of you. I think I've definitely fucked up the expectation side of it. What am I expecting of you to do this, and how am I going to track it? That whole, I'll get better, I'll do a better job this month, and next month comes around and you're busy. So you can't, certainly when you've got more than, 3 or 4 staff, it's like you can't actually spend the time with that person to train them up endlessly. So, now it's more like, right, we need you to achieve these things by this date. This is the project plan. And there's still personal flexibility with it, but it's certainly much more obvious if someone's faltering than it used to be.
Yep. And what about any advice on, adding people to your team or hiring?
I would say one thing around, so B-Corp, the process through B-Corp's is really, really thorough. And it has a whole lot of stuff around policies and processes and so forth like that. So pulling that together, don't always use it, but has been really important. We use Employment Hero now, which is an online HR management platform.
Yeah, we've just implemented that at one of the companies that I sit on the boards of, and it's amazing. I've been told it's really good. Yep.
I mean, any of those systems are sort of bullshit in, bullshit out systems, but if you put the effort into them, then they do create a pretty good platform.
Yeah.
One of the things I realized, I'm going off on a tangent here, but one of the things I realized, like policies and stuff, often I was like, yeah, we're not that big. We don't really need that sort of stuff. But I was talking to my wife, and it comes back to this kind of that power dynamic. It's like, you don't need them because you own the company.
Yeah.
But if you've done something, if you've said something to a staff member that was inappropriate, and they don't know where they stand on it, and they can log into Employment Hero and read the policy on, I don't know, diversity or something like that, and go, well, yeah, you committed to not doing this and you've done it, then that's empowering to that person to challenge you or someone else on it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So sorry on that part. But I think one of the wins or the learnings from hiring people has been, be really clear on what do we stand for as a business. And I think our new website marketing, we've always been trying to do really good stuff in the world, and we have been doing it, but we weren't great at clearly articulating that. If you asked 10 different staff members, you'd get sort of 10 fairly different answers. Whereas I think now if you ask 10 different people, you get relatively consistent answers on what's Dog and Bone doing, what's our mission, what's our impact. And that has been really helpful for employing people, because a lot of people, in fact, I'd say nearly everyone who works for us because they've got tech skills that they want to use to make the world a better place. So being clear on that, has it really helped our employment?
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Culture's probably been one of my sort of main areas. I think that I've always loved the people side of it. So culture's been pretty special to me. We do lots of the things that you might read on the back of a Google ad or something like that. You know, we go out to lunch together as a group. Not everyone goes, depending on projects, but we pretty much go out to lunch once a week. We go have, social stuff probably once a month. We've got a pool table in the office, all that kind of stuff. We do, everyone gets their birthdays off. Everyone gets an extra week's leave at Dog and Bone.
Great idea.
The week's leave, to be honest, for a, if you Coles Myer, the cost might add up a fair bit on that one. But for a business of 10, 20, 30 staff, it was, I would say more people talk and reflect on getting their birthday off than they do for us giving them an additional whole week's leave.
and for those, particularly in North America, I think they still generally only get about 2 weeks holiday in North America. Australia's and New Zealand's 4 weeks. So you're saying you give your team members 5 weeks, plus they get almost 2 weeks of public holidays. That's great.
And their birthday off.
That's great.
And the thing is, from a business owner's point of view, that people, when they have their birthday off, they go to a cafe and they go, oh, I'm out for lunch. And they post it on Instagram and they tell their friends about it. And it's something that they become really proud about for their work, for giving them that time off. Whereas leave just sort of goes into leave, if that makes sense. And it's managed, even if they get more of it, they don't, like people don't tell their mates how much they get earn. It's more like, but their birthdays, that does. So it's been a real winner, that implementation. So we do things like we have an annual relocated, so we relocate our business to the beach for 2 or 3 days. Just hire a couple of beach houses down in Lawn or something like that, and just do a bit of strategic planning. But also everyone's got laptops and stuff, so they all just go down and work. And we also have an annual strategic planning day, which we do at a place called Common Ground, which is a non-profit social enterprise founded by part founded by my parents. So we go up there and hang out up at the farm up there and do that once a year to do our actual business strategy, which is pretty awesome to be able to involve every single staff member, no matter how senior, in that process. Yeah,
great.
But the cultures, I think, it's still set by the managers. You've got to me, it's actually a few things. One, genuinely giving a shit about your staff and asking and inquiring and apologizing and managing in a way that people respect you and that they believe in what you do as a business, that they're not just there. Anyone who's just there to collect their paycheck, they're just not that enthusiastic employees. As in, it's probably either you didn't hire them right or you haven't managed them right if they're doing that. The other one I was saying, it's brutal, but you've got to fire people. You've got to, so many businesses you see have got people in them who don't want to be there for one reason or another, and not everyone is the right fit for your business. And to me, that was one of the things going back to the things I stuffed up, not doing that sometimes. Sometimes you just know, and nearly every time you just know, it doesn't work out. So sometimes you need to be able to actually cut your losses. And while it's hard and can damage culture by doing that, having someone who doesn't want to be there is incredibly damaging to culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And your A players, your best team members will start leaving because they'll say if the leader of the business isn't going to act on this B player or C player or arsehole, I'm out of here.
Yep. Well, and that doesn't mean that you need everyone to be working 65 hours a week for you. Do you know what I mean? But it does mean that, you want people who are dedicated and interested.
Tell the audience how you've handled balance.
Balance? What's your definition of balance? Do you mean the balance sheet? Do you mean gender balance? Do you mean what do you mean by balance?
That's an open question for a reason, Dan.
Right, is it? Okay. Well, if we talk about gender balance, then we've running in IT is pretty difficult on that front. We have. I think there's roughly about 10% of the workforce in IT is women. So it doesn't seem necessarily male dominated, but it really is. We've got our split to, I think it's like 38% or something like that, which is something we're really proud of and have worked really hard to try and achieve. And I think for me, one of the things I've noticed, and clearly as a bloke, I'm not really the best person to answer some of this stuff, but when you've got a culture when you've got women who are in, 50% of my senior leadership team is a woman, our CFO is a woman, our chief operating officer is a woman, that culture, the stuff that having that there, just it starts to, I don't know, feed on itself, the culture of it being a better place to work for a more diverse workforce. So I don't know, that's balance. The balance, if you're asking about how do you manage the balance, as a business owner in terms of the hours you put in, I don't know. I think most people that are running a reasonable size business, you've obviously worked out how to work hard. That's not really the issue. I think the issue is that sometimes creating that space. We were talking before we started this around that. One of the sort of cliche comments of any business discussion is that working on your business and not in your business. But it is one of the truer ones for me. So sometimes it's working really hard, and other times it's actually what is stopping me from working on my business and not in it, and trying to work out those things. For me, it was around, getting a different management team and better systems and processes, and actually having the time and dedication to do that enabled me to be more focused on certain areas.
What was the catalyst behind getting the better management team in place?
I don't necessarily want to use the word better. I think the people that were there were had put in a heap of time, but they'd been there a long time, and it was time. It was time for a change on probably all fronts. But yeah, that's the catalyst. I think it was time. But I also, bringing in new skills. We talked about it, having been in the business for 18 years. One of the other guys who was there had been in the business for 15 years. You know what I mean? So we had all this sort of amazing expertise, but perhaps not so much fresh energy and ideas. And so bringing new people in who've got heaps of corporate experience, MBAs and all that sort of just different learnings and different ideas, and putting it in the mixing pot, but having some continuity there, with me being able to sort of stepping back, but actually able to go, hey, we did try this a few years ago, and not saying we can't do it, but this is some of the things that we didn't go as well as it could have, has been pretty important.
And how much professional development have you invested in yourself over the time? Podcasts, courses, training, or conferences, events, books?
Look, I probably shouldn't say this on your blog, but probably not enough, to be honest. It's not. Not enough, and that comes back to the time. As I said, I think I've just probably got to a stage where I'm not, able to step away from the business for 6 weeks and have it continue to grow and prosper and do awesome things without my every involvement. So not enough. But I have invested. I'm someone who learns from people. I like talking to people. I haven't been someone that's wanted to do MBA after MBA to learn. So throughout COVID and before then, I've tried to build myself a kind of a small collective of probably like 2 or 3 people who had skills that I didn't, who could challenge me. And that was really important to have that mentorship and support was something for me personally I found totally invaluable.
That was the next question. Mentors or coaches in the last 18 years? Yep.
I've tried quite a few different things. I often found, like, I went through a few different coaching. I won't name the the organisations, but some of them supported by government agencies and so forth. And I often found that it's like so often the people that are doing it haven't done it for a long time, or they didn't sort of a bit of that thing. Well, if you're so good at it, why are you talking to me about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or who just wanted to talk at you and tell you without really understanding your business or what's going on, just tell you all these things and how awesome they were and how great ideas they've got. Whereas if people can understand your business a little bit, to me that's been really important, and who've got skills that you don't have. And you know what? One of the things you've got to work out is what are the skills you're not good at. And that's been something for me that I've had to go, you know what? If I'm nearly 40 and I haven't got really good at some of this stuff, I probably aren't going to be.
Yeah.
Accept it. Focus on the things that I am good at, and augment your shortcomings, if you like. Well, it's not even shortcomings, really. No one has to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have a board of directors?
But you've got to make sure it's someone who can actually call you bullshit.
That's right. Yeah.
I had it a few times where I did it, and they were sort of too gentle and nice. And I actually getting that balance right for me personally, I needed someone who wasn't just going to talk at me, but could also go, really?
Yeah.
You
absolutely.
Really think that?
Yeah, you need that independence and someone that's got the fortitude to say, well, that sounds like a fucking stupid idea to me. So what are we going to do about it? You don't need sycophants giving you platitudes. You need people that are going to hold your feet to the fire. Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, I don't. I guess this collective of people has been my my version of that, and I've also pulled together people who. So I guess like my finance manager. I shouldn't say my finance. She's got a CFO background of some very, very large companies. There are people like that. I've sort of tried to do that a little bit internally as well. So that's how I've done it to date.
Yeah,
I think it's something that I have on my radar to think about, but I don't know. I don't. Do you have you seen that to be universally a good thing, or what's your?
As we were talking before we started recording, I sit on 5 boards, of which I chair 3 of those. So I'm a bit biased, but I've also went probably 10 or 15 years of my 21 years in small business where I didn't really have a board. And our egos kind of were out of check. We didn't have people's, strong opinions to hold us to account or ask those hard questions, or just come with different experiences in a different network. So, I've had quite a few people on the cast that have said it's been, really valuable to have. I think it was David Wise from SFM. They're a forestry management company down here in Tasmania, doing 20 or 30 million a year, I think, from memory. 3 mates having a beer just before they graduated uni, early 2000s, decided they weren't going to get a real job. They started a business, so they did. And they've got a subsidiary called Hydrowood, which mines old forests or old trees from some of the dams in Tasmania. Really rare and expensive wood. It's great. But I remember we were talking about this, and he said they had an independent director come in, or advisor sitting on their board. They had 3 divisions to their business, and the advisor listened for a while and said, right, which of the 3 divisions brings in the most net profit, and which is the most noisy? It was the consulting arm was the answer, basically, the least profitable and the most noisy. So they decided there and then to cut that arm of the business off and just focus on the 2 other divisions. So sometimes, no pun intended, I think I said this to Dave on the cast, you can't see the forest for the trees when you're standing in the middle there.
Ooh, I like that. I feel like a good pun.
I haven't said a dad joke on the cast for a couple of episodes now, so snuck that one in there. But
I'm sure we can hit it before the end.
The way I describe boards is intellectual piranha. So you come to a meeting with an issue, or you may not think there's any issues in the business, and then board members start asking questions. What about this? Have we thought about this? I was at another meeting the other day and this issue came up. Have we thought about this, etc.? So, the leader of the business will put an issue on the table. I'm having this problem with culture's dead, and then intellectual piranhas, everyone rips it apart and puts together, their suggestions. This is what we should do about it. I'll go and speak with this person, or we need an external HR person to come in, whatever, and it really helps the leader of the business, give them confidence. A, they might be doing the right thing already, or B, missing things, risks or opportunities that they may not even be able to see. And that corporate governance, holding them to account, the leader. So you set your goals, obviously, throughout the year, and the board's there to hold you to account, but also to support you as well throughout. A good board is, anyway, is my experience.
Yeah, I think that's that. And I guess that's the beauty when you are a business, it's sort of still in that advisory board rather than it being an actual public company and so forth. But I don't know, maybe foolishly, but for me, I have had we were sort of going well, and then we had a bit of a challenge where I think basically our sales and marketing capability weren't where it needed to be, and we had some people who probably weren't watching the commercial stuff, and I probably, for a few personal reasons, were not because as a business owner, life continues. People die, people happen, injuries happen. World goes on. You can't always be your best self. And so I think that combination for me definitely set us back a little bit. And then we had COVID, and I was in the process of ramping way back up, getting really throwing myself at it. Looking at the restructure, all this sort of stuff. And then COVID hit, but it's certainly something that is well on my agenda, and for all the reasons you just stated, I think it's important. I was talking about earlier around making sure that you can be challenged. That's a pretty good definition of that. So for me, I felt like I had some pretty clear things that I needed to do, that had I got an advisory board, they would have just said, right, you need to overhaul this, you need to overhaul that, you need to do this, this, and this. So I felt like probably I'm wasting people's time until I can sort out some of the really obvious areas that I need to sort out. And then when I've done that, it's like, okay, now I'm not sure where next to put my energies. Thanks. Good prompter.
Recently written a couple of LinkedIn articles around boards, etc. So I'll shoot those through to you, and we might link through to them in the show notes as well. Now, you said before you had another business that you exited. So before we get on to the final 5 questions, is there anything around exiting that business? Any advice you give?
I think you were talking about you had a friend with a hairdressing salon. I think I went into that business with a great idea, and it was a great idea, and it went bananas.
With a shit business partner.
Well, look, I think I'll be more diplomatic than that. It was different with probably a business partnership that had challenges. I'd run a business my whole life. They'd come from the corporate sector, working for big corporates, and that really, we had just totally different ideas. He had some amazing expertise and knowledge, but there's in a small business, you got to have a great idea and like implement it on your way home. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, one of my favourite sayings, which I recount to a very good friend of mine who I still haven't had them on the cast yet. It's going to be quite a cracker, that one, when Greg's finally on here. But it's a Thomas Edison quote, which is, "Vision without execution is hallucination."
There you go. Guess what my business was in? Lighting. So there you go.
There you go. The dad joke number 2 for the cast. There we go.
Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, that was that, I guess. But the beauty for me is I called it my kind of MBA that I got paid for.
Yeah.
Because having been in the business for a long time, I had to do websites, I had to do e-commerce marketing, I had to do all this stuff that I had never had to do in my business, and it was incredibly useful to do that, although also incredibly distracting trying to run 2 businesses that weren't related either. They had nothing to do with each other, which I probably wouldn't do again if I was going to be running both of them.
Great advice. All right, Dan, we're on our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
One of them is access to capital. One of the reasons, that business in 18 months was turning over $100,000 a month, and we probably only put in maybe $250,000 to it, between us. And the difference of $250,000 as a starting block, then $3,100, and kind of knowing what you're doing and already having an office and a car and an accountant and all of that crap sorted out, was extraordinary. So certainly, access to some funding, but you kind of want to know how to do it. I reckon if I had that money when I started, I probably would have blown it. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of a combination. What'd you say? Sorry, 5?
No, we're just going through this final 5 kind of quick fire questions here. A favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I don't have one. I don't have it. I can't recall it. One that I've got one from my mum that I've read heaps of times, but I can't.
Which one's
I can't
that?
recall it. So I can't recall. That's what I'm trying.
Right, okay.
I can't remember it. Sorry, you're gonna have to edit this bit out.
It's not the E-Myth.
No.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I love your podcast. It's great.
Thanks.
I can't remember, mate. I've been on leave for 4 weeks, so I'm not. It's not going to be. You want to ask me a different question? I'm not. I don't have a great answer for that one.
That's all right. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Yeah. Look, I don't know. We use Xero. Things like having your finances sorted out is really boring. But my old man was an accountant. I always sort of tried to run our business as if we were going to be a bigger business, not just trying to do whatever you needed to do to get through that day. And having a CFO who's sort of worked for, ASX 200 companies as their CFO, just hammered home all the time. Finance, accounting, cost accounting, project accounting. And look, it depends on what you do, but that stuff's been totally important. I knew it was important, and I just keep finding out how important it is. It's a long time to learn that one, but there you go.
Final and my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I probably would have told myself to save up some money and start the business with a little bit more structure and funds. I was young and I gave it a crack. I sort of fell into it. It wasn't a deliberate, conscious process, but I was 20 years old, so I'll give myself a break for it. But for me, all that kind of planning, as much as I said I'm not so process orientated in business plans and so forth, but having a clear strategy that you're going to go to do it, and some money to do it is pretty important.
Right. Well, thanks very much.
/ marketing. That's the other thing I'd say.
Exactly.
That going back to that quote we talked about before, but that to me is something that's been really, really hard to learn. But marketing and sales is something that is really easy to not focus on. And for me, doing that has brought me sort of freedom in other areas around how I spend my time, and that's been pretty important.
Great. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Dan. I think the audience get a lot of value out of your journey and what you've shared with us. And congratulations to you and the team. You're up to about 20 FTE now. Fantastic. Working on an impact and impactful businesses. So I think, the audience really enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, we saved $16 million for our clients, for our non-profit clients only last financial year. So in terms of an impact,
that's huge.
That's pretty a proud number. And we delivered $454,000, if I remember the figure correctly, of pro bono support to non-profits. So
that's right.
we're really trying to track our impact and that a lot more diligently, and something we're pretty proud of. So thanks again for your time.
No worries. And just before we go, you mentioned the Common Ground that your parents founded. Is that there's a Common Ground Cup on here in Tasmania next weekend? Is that the same association?
No, I'm pretty sure these guys were the first Common Ground around, but there's quite a few now. In fact, there's one in Torquay on the way down here.
Right.
No, it's a social enterprise based out of a little town near Seymour, Tallarook, in central Victoria, which you probably would have recall if you grew up in Benalla, mate.
Yes, I did. You and I grew up not far from each other, ironically.
That's right. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
No worries, mate. Great chatting.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.